Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to another Learning Sound and Synthesis Spotlight Series interview. I'm so excited to be back and today with the wonderful Frank Humphries. Hello, Frank.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. So today we're going to be talking about, Frank's music, Frank's journey, learning modular synthesis, and generally just developing his musical practice. We're also going to be getting into one of my all-time most favorite topics ever, which is listening. And we're going to talk a little bit about how engaging with the practice of listening in different ways um, had an impact on your music making and allowed you to just develop things, kind of change how you're engaging with your music making, give you lots of ideas and inspiration to work with. So those of you who have taken any kind of class with me know that listening is a topic that I am so passionate about. And I think it's just one of the most um, incredible ways to develop your music making, whether your goal is to make electronic music or acoustic music or experimental music or anything in between. But I don't want to ramble too much before we introduce Frank. So over to you. Can you just let us know who you are and what kind of things you do?
Yeah. So, what kind of things I do? My day job, I'm trained as electrical engineer. So I work as a reliability engineer, which means I talk about things that go wrong and keep things from going wrong every day. And for a satellite communications company at this time. But I've always had a parallel path with music and electronic music, jazz, I, all through school and before that. Just I was trained from the age of 10 to the age of 20 as a jazz drummer.
Mhm.
When that ran its course, I found electronic music. Um, in 1978, I was fortunate to study with some good people. Um, so, like my first piece, my first electronic music class was is not that different than yours in some ways. We had a mini Moog and we had a Moog modular, and they just turned us loose and a four track. So I was fortunate. I knew how to work the four track from previous lessons I had with my drum instructor. Actually, he had a four track, and I was able to wrangle him into giving me four track lessons. And so that was the first piece I did, which I would love to find. Actually, and it actually got into a recital, which is kind of fun. And back in those days, that meant you had it on cassette, and the cassette made it to the recital, so the mastering wasn't great, but it was happy to get heard. And then that also got me into some advanced studies with a bigger modular system, and so that was fun. And I did that for a while, and I think I took classes at the university level, like three different occasions in electronic music, and I ultimately did this tape piece that was high concept tape piece. I went to Europe and visited GRM and EarCam, and
Oh, cool.
yeah, it's kind of funny because I used to run into people that would go to Europe and they'd have these experiences visiting studios, and I got to do that. So I just hopped on a plane and went to GRM and showed up like I owned the place, right? So it was so funny. It was so funny. It was just so funny because I walk in and I said I had long hair, beard, and look like a hippie. This is 1985, right? And so I walk in and say I'm here to see GRM. And so uh, they're confused, and so ultimately I kept asking until they let me up to the studio, and I go to the studio. I got my backpack, and I go up to the studio, and they're treating me like the ugly American. So it's not going well, okay. And then I told them, how much I knew about their music, and they stopped the session, and they just looked at me and said, "You know our music?" And they were just like, oh, and they just rolled out the red carpet for me. And he said, oh, that's just fantastic. We didn't know other people knew our music, so that was and the whole history of VRM and those recordings, from early days. And then I went into EarCam and had a similar experience. Um, Pierre Boulez wasn't there that day, but I did walk in the front door and ask for him. And
Okay, folks. So people who are listening, this is an amazing, we're like 30 seconds into this interview, but this is already an amazing thing.
anyway,
Ask for what you want to do. Take an example
yeah.
from Frank. Walk into the place and just be like, hey, this
So
is
I
what
got
I
to spend some
want.
time hanging out at EarCam, even though Pierre Boulez wasn't there that day. I don't know what I would have done if he would have shown up. I really don't. And during this whole process, I came up with this concept for this piece, this tape piece that I came back and did, and it's kind of and took me 200 hours of splicing tape, and it was just nuts. And I thought I had it out of my system at that point. And so then I continued to do jazz and whatnot, improvisation. And about 4 years ago, I just got the bug to do electronic music again, and I discovered software synths and VSTs, and I go, oh, okay, this is great. This is because back in my day, you had to have access to a studio, which means you had to affiliation with university or lots of money,
Mhm.
and so I kind of lost that after moving around a little bit, and so I started doing some work with VSTs for about 4 years, and that was great. I learned how to, learn production, mixing, and all that, and and arrangements that sound combinations, arrangements that I enjoyed, but it wasn't fulfilling, and it took me a while because I'm an improvisational artist. It took me a while to figure out workflow that it works for me, but it also, because I'm an improvisational artist, it took me a while to work myself up into a froth that you feel like you're in it, and I don't know how to else to put this. There's this moment that occurs when the thing happens, okay, and I could get there, but it took a while, all right, and so after 4 years, I've done what have I got in there, like 18 tracks on my SoundCloud, and I so I was aware of your class, as people get aware before they pull the trigger, it's for like a year or something like that. And I go, okay, it looks like Sierra's got some good stuff, but we're wary. We keep a distance, and then and I kept checking back in. And I think the first thing that caught my attention with you is you were doing feedback mixing. And I go, what is this thing? And and I've got this mixer I was getting ready to throw out, right? This Boss 6-track mixer.
Mhm.
And come to find out, it's kind of a desired mixer. And I go, okay, this is cool. I think this is a good attitude. And so that kind of warmed my heart into what you were doing. Okay. Because you don't know, you see people on the internet selling synth lessons, you don't know. So
Sure.
then I decided, okay, I want to get some stuff out. I've got a lot going on, a lot of stuff in me I got to get out. So I said commit, and I signed up for the class, and sound synthesis class. And I say, okay, I know a few things, but that's all right. I'm going to have beginner's mind, and fill some gaps and see where it takes me. And so I wasn't expecting a whole lot other than fill some technical gaps, and maybe learn some more about composition and arranging. But actually, it really helped a ton. So it's um, anyway. So that's my background. I ran a jazz trio for 5 years from the drum kit, improvisational trio, free jazz trio, and I've done some electronic music. I've worked in, fortunate enough to work in a studio for a little while.
Great.
Uh, Anyway, so that's my background.
Sounds like you've had some amazing adventures. um, and it's great to have a kind of picture of where you're coming from with things too. So I'm really curious, can you uh, let's talk a little bit about what specifically was so helpful for you in taking this next step in your music making, if it's something that you got from the class or not, just like what were the things that um, that were so helpful for you?
Right. In relation to the class,
Or just in general with you. It could be about something that you got from the
I
class.
mean, but
I
well,
know
the
you were
first thing
talking
that's
of.
helpful to me is just make music.
Yeah,
Just and make music, and even if it's bad, make music. Because eventually it won't be bad anymore.
right.
You know, and I look back on the favorite things I've done, and I've got some tracks, and like maybe the whole track isn't good, but there's a moment that's created. There are these moments, and I go, oh man, I dig that moment. That's really cool. And so the goal is to have a whole track full of moments, right?
Yeah.
But and I look back, and like this track may not be one of my favorites, but it's got this moment that's just vibey and just it's delicious. And so I go, how did I do that? You know?
Hmm.
So, but that took like, almost 20 tracks to get there. Uh, it's so funny because I went in, like, just started making tracks and posting them, and posting them for comment, get involved in the community where you can get comments.
Hmm.
That comments have been the most helpful thing. They have actually from the beginning taught me how much I don't know.
Hmm.
Okay, and everybody's nice about it. Even if, and I was, you know, even if there's people who do it for a living, and they're nice enough to give their time and to give you the tough love, it's fine. Okay, it's fine because that's where you need to go.
Right. And it's always with
Right,
the intention of supporting you and helping you take your next step.
right. And do you want to mix, poorly forever? You know.
Right. Okay, I love this. For the
Anyway,
first thing you said is just make music, right? That's
yeah,
so good.
just
It's
do
like
it.
somewhere at the beginning of learning sound synthesis, I think in the very first video or two, I talk about how you can't learn how to swim until you're in the water swimming. And it's the same idea. It's like the way to get good at making music is to make music, and
Right,
it won't all be good. But the sooner that you can get past that and just embrace it and make it
right.
anyway, the sooner you'll get to the good stuff. And that's so valuable.
And the bad stuff isn't as bad as you think.
That's true too. That's true too.
It's not as bad as you think. And because the journey of the last 4 years, I go back and there's stuff that, I might wince at, but it's like, it's not all bad. So it's
No, we are our toughest critics always. Okay, what about, so when we were talking before, you mentioned that some of the listening prompts or ideas that were shared in the class were really helpful for you. Can you talk a little bit more about how you
yeah. So,
worked through those?
the class, progresses into this, the space of deep listening. And specifically, it was the exercise when you provide a sound and you say, okay, uh, this is how I interpreted it. Okay,
Mhm.
here's the sound. The goal is to try to duplicate the sound, but not really. That's not really the goal.
Yeah,
And but it's a starting point.
right.
And so I really took this seriously. I don't know, and and the thing is, okay, I thought, okay, I'm going to hear a sound, and I'm going to copy the sound. I think it's going to be like a filter sweep or something like that, right? And your sounds are just so good, Even the little sounds between classes, you understand how good they are. All right, I just love those.
Well, thank
But
you.
so, um, so I'm sitting there, and I decide, okay, I'm just going to listen for a while. I'm not even going to make a move. I'm not going to open VCV Rack. I'm just going to sit here with the sound, let it come into me. I'm going to enter into the sound, and we're going to sit together for a while. And we're going to sit together until we're done sitting together. And you develop this relationship Okay. And yeah, if I get too mystical, let me know. All right.
Oh,
So,
no, this is great. Keep going.
so, and you say, and so as first thing comes to mind, okay, there's a technique in there. Fine. Okay. Well, we'll start with the technique, could be filter FM or something. Who knows? Right. But because I've done this, because I've listened probably twice as much as I normally do in music making. Okay.
Mhm.
Previously, I would say, oh, I got this deadline. Damn. And then I got to make some sounds for the deadline. Damn. And hopefully they're good sounds, and hopefully they all work together. And then I got to come up with an arrangement. And then the whole thing at some point becomes drudgery. All right.
Mhm.
And you crank out some stuff, but you're just wrung out at the end of it. And it takes 30 days. Right.
Mhm.
And you're just wrung out. So in this process, I'm like, it was joyful. And I wasn't worried about a project or a deadline. I was just having this dialogue with the sound. And very quickly, I accepted the fact, okay, I got close. I'm not going to copy the sound. I don't care, because I just came up with something fantastic.
Yes.
Okay. Then within the space of like 15 minutes, it was nuts. Okay. The floodgates opened. Like nut. I've never had this happen. All right. About a dozen sounds come out that are like I mean, I'm not talking about like variations of one sound. I mean, like all really good, independent, autonomous sounds. I mean, I thought, wow, this is cool. So I saved I don't save sounds that often. I saved like a dozen sounds like within 15 minutes. Thinking these are really good. These are like 10 times better than what I normally do. Right.
Mhm.
So I thought, this is cool. So, but what happened is it kind of lit something, this ember that didn't go away past these exercises, right?
Mhm.
And so then, okay, you're walking around during the day or you're going for your walk, and then you start thinking about sounds you want to hear. And then and then all of a sudden you get your notebook out and you just start writing like 5 really good, credible ideas for projects that are beyond anything I had written in that book before. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of what happened.
So, I mean, that's amazing. It's so great to hear the way that you share that experience. What do you think caused that? Like, what happened in your head, in your body? Like, you didn't all of a
I see.
sudden,
Well, see, I
like,
don't know. I don't. When I make music, normally I just empty
yeah,
completely. I just empty completely and say, all right, let's just see what this is going to bring me today. You
sure.
know, I just, you empty completely and you listen to the sound as if you're listening to sound for the first time, you
Mhm.
know, um, and I just was able to quickly do that. And, uh, uh, I was open to it. It was
Yeah,
just, I think I wasn't thinking, okay, I need to copy the sound because I have to get the answers right.
right.
To be honest, okay, I have a confession to make. I still have not looked at the answers. All right.
Fine. That's not the point. You were right. That is not the point.
Those sounds
The
were so good. I didn't need to look at the answers.
Yeah,
Okay.
the goal of that exercise, Frank, is exactly what happened to you. The goal of it is to give you a place to start, to help focus, and hopefully be an invitation to listen in a new way. And by the sounds of
Yeah.
things, it worked. And what
Yeah.
happened is you
I mean, the whole thing about the program is a system, and and that's a thing. Okay, you could teach the technical aspects of oscillators, filters, VCAs. You could teach. Okay, people have gone before us in
Sure.
electronic music.
Mhm,
You could even teach arranging,
mhm.
but there's a whole system that's this holistic thing that is a rare thing, and then you tie that in with the community, and you've done it right. I mean, it's I think you've set up an environment that is rich for this to happen. Okay, so uh, I think so. I just it's I don't know, that's how I see it.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to hear that, truly, and yeah, so glad that you have had such a good experience. I'm curious if you could offer someone who's listening a way that they could start to engage with their listening practice in a more thoughtful way, starting in 5 minutes. What would be the first piece, the
In,
first step that you would give them?
in 5 minutes.
Like 5 minutes from now, when we're done this call, if they're like, okay, I want to go and start, it doesn't need to take 5 minutes. It could be something that
In
takes
music creation or listening?
in their listening, something that they can do to engage with their listening in a deeper
Take a
way.
walk around the block. Find somebody remodeling their house. If they're using a Sawzall, sit there and listen to it for 10 minutes. See where that takes you.
I love it.
Listen to the dog bark. The best thing, I think, is the Tom Waits quote, but I love this experience where find a spot in your building or in your neighborhood where you could hear two radios playing from two different houses at the same time. Okay, that's magic. All
Yeah,
right.
love that.
That's one of the pieces I'm planning right now. I love the idea of spoken text, right? But I love the idea of spoken text that's not intelligible. Like, you know, when you overhear a conversation, but you can't hear the words.
Right.
I love the rhythm of syntax, not necessarily what they're saying, right? And so I'm playing with that idea of having spoken text, but to have the intelligibility come in and out randomly.
Beautiful.
And I don't know what words are going to poke out and what words are not going to poke out. So, but this is stuff that turns me on.
Yeah, it's great.
It's I don't know. It just walk around the block and find sounds. I'm into organic sounds. Find sounds that turn you on. You know.
Yeah.
And then if you're playing CDs or music, uh, find something that's uncharacteristic that you would listen to. Find something the opposite of what you would normally listen to. It's like find a total polar opposite. You know, if you listen to rock and roll, listen to some country music, or you know, if you haven't heard classical for a while, you know, put on some Dvorak. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's great advice. And generally just listen with more.
And if you play an instrument, uh, just sit with the instrument and play one note for like 10 minutes. Just play one note and just listen. Just sit with the instrument and instead of doing techniques and scales and arpeggios, just sit and listen. You know, I think that's better than just rifling through a bunch of scales and arpeggios. So
Yeah, beautiful. Great advice. Thank you. So what's next for you in terms of your music making?
yeah, so I want to get this EP out, and it's just a quick. I'm excited about it. So one of the tracks that's on my SoundCloud is the beginnings of it, but I'm going to get a 4-track EP out just to get started, get something on Bandcamp,
Awesome.
get me started, and it's all sequence based. It started out being project centered around I have this desktop synth, the Dreadbox Typhon. So it started out being, you know, sequences I would make with the Typhon, but I got some VST projects that earned their way into the mix, which surprised me. And so it's Typhon and other things. And I don't know if I'll bring the modular in on this one, but it's that I just wanted to, you know, do some sequence-based recording, and for like 4 tracks. I got some stuff that's interesting that I like, and I think I have 4 tracks worth of stuff I could put out as a project. It all works together.
Awesome.
I work with a modular. I built like this 84 HP case, and I'm going through this process now of trying to decide what's in and what's out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm 70% there. And just when I'm going to take a module out, I heard your piece. And I go, oh, I think I'll keep that module in. It's like, anyway, so,
That's a long process for sure.
because I have a module that reminded me some of the stuff you did on your last piece, Summer. And, but yeah, so and that's why they're modular. I mean, it's configurable.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
configurable.
exactly.
But I'm 70% there. I'm just what I do want to say is, so prior to having this deep listening experience and taking the class, it would take me 30 days, to grind out a tune.
Mm-hmm.
The last tune I did in 4 days.
Amazing.
Okay. Not only that, but when I exported the mix down and I was ready to post it, and in a previous life, I would have posted this. I listened to it again, thinking, nah, I got to go back and address the mix, and I have to address the arrangement. So in the past, I either would have punted or dreaded, oh my God, I got to touch the mix again. I got to touch the arrangement again. I did that in 2 hours. Okay. I know what I wanted to hear. I made what I wanted to hear within 2 hours and got it out. So,
Amazing.
so
That's so great.
that's fantastic. If I can go through 30 days song creation to 4 days, fixing a mix in 2 hours, I can get more music out.
Yeah.
So right now I'm spending more time with the modular. I'm an engineer, so I don't want to be in front of the computer screen all the time. So I like the modular for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a DAW-less person, but and every day I'm busy. I've got things going on, but every day if I turn it on for 10, 15 minutes, that's fine. I don't have to have some marathon session. I turn on 10, 15 minutes. I have this concept of noise medicine, and it really does pay back. So.
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay. So good. Thank you so much. For everyone who's watching, I just shared a link in the chat to Frank's SoundCloud. Your music is beautiful. Go check it out, listen, and keep an eye out for that EP that's coming. Frank, please let us know when it's out, because I definitely want to hear it. And
yeah, I was
for other
shooting for
people can too.
August, but then I got slow.
That's okay. Just let us know when it's out. We're not putting pressure on, just
okay.
enthusiasm.
No, I'll post it in the group. So.
Great.
Okay.
That's awesome. And also for anyone who's watching, if this conversation is resonating with you and you're, wanting to improve your music making workflow, learn about modular synths, learn about sound design, get deeper into this practice of listening and how it can impact your music making process in general, I would love to invite you to check out my class, Learning Sound and Synthesis. That's what we've been talking about. In the description of this video, there is a link to the waitlist, soundandsynthesis.com. You can go over to that page, learn a little bit about the class, join the waitlist. And all that means is that you're going to be notified next spring when the enrollment opens up for the spring 2024 cohort. Learning Sound and Synthesis is run 2 times a year. So if you're curious, I definitely recommend that you hop on the waitlist just so you don't miss the announcement. And if you have any questions about the class, or if it's the right fit for you or anything like that, you can send me a DM anytime. And I would be happy to just tell you about it and chat more. So with that said, Frank, is there anything else, any parting words that you'd like to share with people?
Nah, just, enjoy your synth.
Enjoy your synth. Enjoy your synth, folks. I love that. Thank you so much, Frank. Thanks so much for everyone watching and listening. And I will see you all next time.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye for now.